So very good afternoon to everyone here. And for the kind words, Sri Lakshmi, thank you for the introduction. At the outset, I would like to begin by saying I was just listening in over the last few minutes to what Dr. Fernandez said and to Mr. Sika's views as well. In fact, very insightful. For a person, as a person who doesn't come necessarily from the healthcare industry, and a person who looks up to news portals or newspapers for the current news, it was really good to get a practical on the field perspective from these two gentlemen. So thank you, sirs, for that. Really helps. And I would also second Dr. Fernandez's opinion about the current workforce that we have in healthcare. Hats off to these mega workforce who've been working tirelessly and selflessly in serving mankind. I think in some sense they have stretched their own limits, which they have seen so far. But then, yeah, it takes something to be so committed and dedicated to a larger purpose like serving the mankind. And in these trying times, in hostile conditions, in unforgiving conditions, it's not easy. So my respects, regards, and salutes go to them. Right. With that, I will delve into my presentation for today. Although it is slightly probably a departure from the day's topic of pure healthcare, but yes, we do have a definitive link into healthcare, and I'll tell you in a while how that how that is how that is linked. Allow me just to start my presentation, please. Yeah. So I also have to put a disclaimer that I work like more like a college teacher these days. So Sri Lakshmi, you have to keep me on time check, and a college teacher realizes the period is over only when the bell rings. So please ring a bell when the time is up. So with that request, I'm going to move ahead. Quick look at the agenda. I'll talk about a bit of change in market trends that we as vendors of IT, vendors of data management solutions are seeing. What are the data management, some of the data management challenges today in healthcare? What are some of the high level ideas to solve these problems? About the Commvault platform itself. Why Commvault is a good fit for healthcare as a vertical? How secure is Commvault? As well as some references. Before actually I get into the market trends, I would like to see some of the personal trends that we are all going through today, right? So what are we seeing as individuals? So I thought it would be an interesting perspective to look at that first and then get into the market trends. So pre-COVID era, we were all used to working from offices, and offices would mean anywhere. It could be hospitals, it could be pharma companies, it could be IT companies, it could be anywhere. So we were all used to working out of an office. Versus now, we are working from home. And what that means is, like I'm doing right now, we will be talking. I've been talking to my laptop, personal computer, more than I've been talking to my family over the last 6 months, 4 months to be precise. And not that my family is complaining, but the truth has become that the laptop has become a more closer companion in the last 4 months. That's the change that we're seeing. When in office, we had presentations, we had meetings, we had things, other mundane chores that we are doing, and also having our own small tea breaks, what we call cigarette breaks. It became a very colorful life post the pandemic. So we started realizing skills that we thought we couldn't do earlier, or we didn't know about ourselves. I think we had a discovery, self-discovery. We started doing a lot of domestic work, which we did not probably do earlier. Realize newer skills like cooking and being a star chef. I have been seeing a lot of posts that way. So that was a new colorful thing added to our lives. So pre-COVID, gravity was normal. Our personal gravitational force was normal. That's what I mean to say when I say normal gravity. And then it moved on to a spike in gravity. The lifestyle changed, right? For most of us, if not all, I think we have seen a lifestyle change where it has become more sedentary than we were earlier. So that has resulted definitely in a spike in gravity. From a healthcare perspective, not a good sign. I think there's a wake-up call. We all have to look at maintaining ourselves, especially given the kind of stress on the healthcare sector and the professionals. We don't want to add more load to them. So my request is all of us have the right to stay healthy, and we should stay healthy. Quick look at the market trends. What are we seeing in the market? And when I say market, this is from companies. It could be any establishment, right? It could be a hospital, it could be a pharma, it could be any company that is delivering products and services to the market. So what are we seeing as a change? Earlier, it was about enhancing customer experience pre-COVID, and it has moved now towards boosting customer trust. In testing times is where the mettle of any enterprise is proved. It we just put to test, and I think more energy needs to be spent in reassuring our customers that things are fine, and the level of support or whatever services that we would offer is still good to go in the testing times as well, the current times as well. Offices called for closer collaboration, meetings, ideas, bouncing off ideas with each other, having some good debates, to now improving remote productivity. We have all become a remote workforce. So working remotely, making sure things are fine, business is still on, has become a big priority now. Product innovation, earlier days, money was invested, efforts were invested in innovating the products, making it newer and newer and up to date, versus fortifying the core. Today, the focus is on what is on the truck, what do I already have on the truck, and how do I make sure that is delivering what it is supposed to? Is my core strong enough to deliver the services that I intend to? Increase profitability in shareholder value, which is a given for every enterprise. And that doesn't stop, but what also has changed is balancing profitability in these testing times where the sales are low, revenues are low, as well as the profits. The company has to still move forward. And what I've seen a lot of companies and CIOs realize is, or the companies realize is the human capital. Human capital is the most important asset that they have realized, which has been built over time. And there's a lot of value in that. So companies are trying to protect the human capital in every way they can. Planning for business continuity. 9/11 was a good starter. It was an eye-opener. And this pandemic has just reset all the standards required for business continuity. It is way, way, way above the 9/11 standards that we saw in 2001. So this is called for something very new. And now is the time to test it, actually. A lot of investments were made in terms of business continuity, disaster recovery planning, so on and so forth. Now is the time to test it. It has been put to test. And so we know whether it really stood up to the occasion or not. Were the plans correct or not? And some interesting statistics in the last 4 or 5 months since the pandemic, there has been an increase of 148% in ransomware attacks. And a NordVPN survey says so. And a remote workforce have just increased by 70%, and about 62% are using personal devices, which means to say they are vulnerable to attacks. So for official work, when personal devices are used, it means to say it may not follow corporate standards for that particular laptop. It may not have those applications in terms of threat prevention and threat detection. And as a result, it could be an invitation to attackers. And more so, what we see is that the average usage time has also gone up by 3 hours in a day, which means that people are spending more time on the laptop, and which increases the attack surface for whoever is trying to do that. And any phishing emails looks attractive, click on it, and then you just have welcomed an attacker into it. So that's the kind of risk that we are seeing today in the market. Specific with healthcare, what are we seeing? In our discussion, we work a lot with hospitals and pharmaceuticals to give them to understand the data management challenges in specific, and also give them solutions around that. We have very customized solutions for that. One of the things that in a very high level, if I look at, is data silos. Data is spread everywhere, be it a pharma, be it a hospital. There is a lot of data that is getting generated. And the point is, it is in so many places that there's no single version of the truth. There is no one point to get to and say, okay, here's the set of data that I have. So that picture is not available today. Unstructured data, so images, it could be scans, it could be images, it could be PAX images, it could be various different types of scanned images. So there are so many unstructured, rich metadata, rich data that is getting into the environment with a high velocity and variety. Ransomware threats, needless to say, I just spoke about it. So that's always there. It's a big threat for every enterprise now, not just in healthcare. And staying compliant, specifically healthcare is subject to a lot of regulations and expectations. It could be, proving to a legal, it could be proving to a regulatory agency like a court, or, another agency like, different agencies like police, and so on and so forth. But not only that, even from an auditing perspective, it is pretty big in this segment. So there are time-to-time audits, and you have to prove compliance, data compliance, and which is what we see as a major challenge for these companies trying to meet these requirements. How would you solve it? Very high level, 4 very simple but very effective ideas. Get your data inventory first. Irrespective of what solution you'll use, data that is secondary, but at least try and get to know your data well. That's the first thing. Second, identify the music from the noise. Separate the music from the noise. Identify the data that really needs protection. And each data has its own characteristic. Every data may not be required at all times, everywhere. So you need to segregate that, saying that what is the data, it's critical, I need it for operational recoveries, for business, to avoid business downtimes, versus what do I need for a long-term retention, maybe patient records to be kept for 10 years, 15 years. So some examples I'm giving, or maybe some patent records, right? If in a pharma case, you have a patent, lot of patents and patent records whenever you ask to respond to e-discovery. So you need long-term storage. So there are different needs for data storage, and that has to be identified in advance. Last, another thing is, when you have so much of data and from so many sources, it becomes imperative that you have a very less number of tools. In fact, a single tool to manage all that, so that you get a unified view of all the data in the enterprise. And last but not least, proving compliance. It becomes very important. So you have to look at ways to prove your compliance. I just have to quote here that the National Digital Health Mission, announced on Independence Day by our Honorable Prime Minister, is going to, it has the potential to change healthcare in our country, the picture of healthcare in our country, by a huge leaps and bounds, I should say. So imagine the kind of data that will get generated, and with such kind of data that needs to be managed, I would say more the data and less the tools is always a better scenario. So the number of tools to manage data should be inversely proportional to the volume of data. And imagine if more and more data coming in, how would you manage that? So a single tool is always better, serves better. This should be your data 360 strategy, completely covering all of that, that we spoke about. Quickly moving on to the Commvault platform. At a very high level, we have segregated this by use cases. Please trust me when I say that it's a single product, it's a single user interface for all of the management. It is just that what you see on the screen are modules which are differentiated. The first two rows are different modules which are very well defined based on the outcomes they provide. For example, Commvault backup recovery is about backup and recovery. It could be of any infrastructure like your physical servers, virtual machines, files, and so on and so forth. And you want instant recovery within a few minutes, few hours. Yes, that is what makes possible. Having a disaster recovery is a good idea. Always business continuity is required. That's what Commvault disaster recovery brings into picture for files, databases, and virtual machines. Next, look at in these companies, in these enterprises, what we see is large amounts of data, right? Especially files. And what we call dark data. Dark data is something that is not even known to a company that it exists. So we help figure out the dark data, discover the dark data, and make you and help you make informed decisions based on those characteristics. We actually tell you what sort of data is available in your enterprise, so that you can make informed decisions whether to keep it, discard it, or move it across in terms of time. Data governance is simply put something like the European GDPR. Indian data protection regulations are on the anvil, so it should be a reality anytime. So we help you respond to these regulations as it applies to the healthcare industry. Last but not least, e-discovery and health in compliance. This is where you want to have later, you want to do discoveries of, it could be patent information or patient records. We help with such kind of discoveries by doing a classic indexing job, having good indexes around data that can help you search data faster and respond faster. All of this good, it's a rich software-defined platform, but we also enable something called Hyperscale X, which is our hardware platform, which delivers the best of availability in terms of backup, recovery, and archival. So it is also equally important. It is not just enough if your primary systems are robust. You need to have a strong backup platform that is available at all times and is able to recover data just when you need it in the way you need it. Hedwig is our storage, a multi-protocol storage for a seamless data movement between on-premise and cloud. And typically if you're using containers or virtual machines, it becomes a very important software-defined storage to use. Specifically with healthcare, I would like to touch upon 3 areas very relevant to healthcare in pharma. Pharma desktops, we are very popular among pharmaceuticals for this very reason, that we support some of the most legacy operating systems which are running the versions of pharmacy applications which have not been upgraded over time. The vendor does not do it, and they still want to work on the same operating system. Giving a bare metal or a complete system recovery, that's the capability we give to these customers, right? And that's why they like Commvault and they have deployed Commvault. Similar, like I said about patent data protection and search, we can help with that. And moving to the hospital side, PACS archiving and viewing. So we are working with one of the largest chains based in South India for heart care. They have branches all over the country. Their requirement is if their primary PACS is down, they want to have the doctors who have capability to look at their PACS images from a backup system. And this is very unique to Commvault. We are able to provide it within the same platform. The ability to view PACS images, and the distributed system, multiple doctors across multiple locations. So that's what we could try and offer, right? Of course, you all have common, all these enterprises have common applications, servers, virtual machines, end users, email. So this becomes a common part of IT, basically the IT workloads, and we cover that pretty well. What net I'm saying here is that all of these get covered under a single platform, single management platform. You don't have to go shopping for another one because there's a new workload in the enterprise. Right? And very much stitched into, we understand healthcare as a segment pretty well. Right. Next, if I don't speak about security today, it is just an incomplete conversation. We as a platform, Commvault as a data platform, as a data management a solution, focus and assign a lot of importance to security. Security is core because of the kind of attacks that we are seeing, the compromise that we're seeing on data. So it is our imperative to keep the data safe and secure when it is on our platform. When you trust our platform for storing data, it should be safe and secure, and that's our primary goal as well. We look at a 4-dimensional approach called foundational hardening, which is these are standards set by some of the regulatory agencies in the United States, which requires every vendor in the segment to follow that if they were to be used in the federal sector. And we pretty much conform to all the required standards in our industry. Application hardening would mean, from the logical perspective, making sure access is controlled, authorization is controlled, there's enough auditing of who did what, and basically making sure the actions are monitored and controlled. All the way to ransomware protection, our machine learning and AI algorithms make sure that we build in intelligence into the platform to keep monitoring the systems and give you a heads up when there is a ransomware kind of an attack, and also take some actions based on, if the attack is detected, what to do next. So we have that kind of intelligence built in. And of course, best practices like air gap and isolating data, which is keeping it in a location which is not physically accessible to an attacker, to make sure if ever there was a compromise on the primary data, you can recover from these air gapped copies. So that's another dimension. We would be happy to talk more about this in one-on-one engagements if you'd like to learn more about how we could help you in terms of data management and security, especially data security for what we have stored. We would be more than happy to do that. The ultimate goal is to keep you data recovery ready. So all investments that get in today, what are you? The single outcome that you look for is, can I have my data back at a time when I need it, in a form when I need it? And that's exactly where Commvault fits in, irrespective of the workload. It could be, it could be on-premise, it could be you want to adopt cloud, no problem. We work natively in the cloud as well. And we understand your use cases. And we basically can customize those solutions that match your data management requirements. So net, coming back from a summary perspective, we looked at data inventory, we can help with that. And I told you how. Securing, identifying the music from the noise, and securing the data, protecting it, definitely yes. We have a single management console called Command Center, and that makes it a single view for any sort of, it could be a search, it could be a backup, it could be a disaster recovery, everything gets covered under here, or it could be a pharma desktop. And of course, you could use existing hardware. We are a software-defined platform. It's an intelligent platform that can use your existing hardware resources, so better return on investment, right? And then, of course, you prove compliance by e-discovery, search, or sensitive data governance that I spoke about. And net, it gives you a complete coverage for this data 360 strategy. Some interesting metrics about Commvault. This is about from the 60% of customers reporting to our cloud portal, where we do a lot of analytics. This is just 60% reporting, and you can see for yourself the kind of data that we manage around the world today. And in various aspects, you can see different aspects of that attributes that we hold today. Right. Needless to say, this is a very important thing that I would like to proudly call out. Gartner is a very renowned and well-placed, well-respected agency. And we have stood as a leader for the 9th successive time in the backup and recovery space. We have stood as a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And in specifically 3 areas this time, we have ranked number 1, which is the cloud protection area, virtual environments protection area, and physical environments. More or less, if you see in your cloud or on-premise data centers, this is what you look for in terms of where your data resides. So, and we are ranked number 1 in all of these categories. And that doesn't come with a simple reason. There is enough innovation, there is enough execution, good execution going on, and which is what keeps us there for 9 successive consecutive years. Some esteemed customer of ours, very happy to have these customers on our list. Mr. Pragati, definitely, one of the innovators. He does a lot of innovation on the Commvault platform, saving costs for his company and achieving some things that somebody could not have imagined of, right? In terms of data center migration, in terms of optimizing his workloads, in terms of backup, disaster recovery, there's a lot of stuff that is done. Of course, Center for Sight, they also are an esteemed customer of ours, and you can read the quotes right now, which is on your screen. We are very happy to have such references for us today. I would say, what is the right prescription for your data today? If you ask me, I would like to ask you, have you offered or checked out vitamin com vault for your data yet? If not, please do, because it's the perfect dose with an all season protection for your data. No matter where it is, no matter which season, it protects at all times. Because your data deserves the best healthcare, Comvault is the solution to look at. And we'd be more than happy to continue this conversation anytime you would like to. With that, I come to the end of this presentation. I really thank you all for your time. It's been a privilege being here. And I turn it over to Sri Lakshmi. Thank you, Sri Lakshmi.